Lise Meitner. Don't worry if you've never heard of that name before. You're not the only one, and there's a reason for it. She was an Austrian Jew born on November 7, 1878, and received her doctorate at the University of Vienna in 1906. She then moved to Berlin to attend Max Planck's lectures, the famous Planck's constant, and was the first woman ever to become a literal physics professor in Germany. She and Otto Hahn researched together about radioactivity and named the element protactinium, being among the first people to ever isolate its isotope, protactinium-231. However, in the late 1930s, Hitler came to rise and she had to flee Nazi Germany, even though she had already become a Protestant in 1908. She went to Sweden and could only contribute to their research through mails. Knowing that emails became a thing only in the 1970s, they had to use the old way, which, as you all can imagine, was not very efficient. In 1938, her colleagues found out that when uranium is bombarded with neutrons, barium appears in the resultant composition. Meitner and her nephew, in 1939, further investigated this process and explained its physical characteristics, proposing the now common term fission. However, 5 years later in 1944, Otto Hahn, on his own, received the Nobel Prize for Chemistry for discovering nuclear fission. It is rightfully argued that Meitner shared the discovery and that they should have shared the award. Between the years 1942 and 1945, Meitner was invited to work on the Manhattan Project. What was this project? Basically, the US government gathered around scientists that were refugees from fascist regimes in Europe to exploit the newly discovered reaction fission for military purposes. To be more precise, the atomic bomb project. I cannot move on without applauding the US for its genius, capitalist idea of channeling scientists' emotions for their own military purposes. Very clever indeed. Anyways, back to the topic. Lise Meitner, thankfully, rejected this invite basically because she stood against the production of the atomic bomb. Bare necessities, right? Wrong. Many scientists, including Glenn T. Seaborg and even Meitner's nephew, chose to be involved in this project, unlike our gal with incredible morals here. She was discriminated due to her sex and religion to a point where she was forced to leave her work, move to another country, and give up on a Nobel Prize she deserved to the last bit. This could have birthed anger and resentment towards Otto Hahn, the Nobel Prize Committee, and even the whole world, but when given a choice, she still managed to put humanity's interests over her own. She could have easily chosen to participate in the Manhattan Project, seeking revenge on the country and regime that owed her a Nobel Prize, but she did not. She chose to stand beside what she believed in and did what was best for humanity. Sadly, she retired in 1960 and went to England, where she died 8 years later. Even though she was treated unjustly by the Nobel Prize Committee, what happened after her death seems to have treated her right. Her tombstone carries the inscription, "A physicist who never lost her humanity," for her rejection of the Manhattan Project. Among the best lessons that can be learned from Lise Meitner's work is not a lesson of physics, but a lesson of humanity and morals in science. In addition, the 109th element of the periodic table was named Meitnerium after her name. The value of the Nobel Prize is unarguable. However, more than 800 people have won a Nobel Prize, whereas only 15 elements on the periodic table were named after scientists. This suggests that even though she may not be a common name to the public, she was congratulated for her work and righteousness among the scientists' community.